Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
There's one thing about it that is clear to me. If we could understand why we hate, not what, not who, but why, I think it'll make a world of difference. And that's a lot of what I get out of what Daryl is doing. The other is, and this question, I can't forget it, and I use it a lot when I'm trying to understand what's going on. Why do you hate me when you don't know me? And that's what Daryl asks all the time. Why do you hate me when you don't know me? Is that a good door opener, or do they open or close the door when you ask that question?
Well, you know, I ask the question twice usually. Once in the beginning, and they let me know because I'm inferior. My brain is smaller than white people's brains. Because of my skin color, I'm prone to crime. That's why there are more blacks in prison than whites. Because of my skin color, I'm lazy, don't want to work. People like me want to scam the government welfare system. And you know, while that talk is offensive, am I offended? No, I'm not offended. And I'll tell you why. Most people would end the conversation right there and it would explode. But I'm not offended because I realize this person sitting across from me who's telling me this about myself only met me 10 minutes ago. So they don't know me. So who are they talking about? Not me. A, I don't have a criminal record. I've never been on welfare. I've never measured my brain, but I'm sure it's the same size as anybody else's. Okay, so why should I be offended when this person doesn't even know what they're talking about? So I just let them roll on, because for everybody that they have insulted like that, sure, are there blacks in prison? Absolutely. Are there blacks on welfare? Absolutely. Are there blacks who may not be as smart as somebody else? Absolutely. But for every one of those, I can find their white counterpart. So I'm not offended because I know they don't know what they're talking about. And by the time, and because I don't react the way they expected me to react, they're then a little more curious and they're more receptive to the things that I have to say. So now their guard is down. And after a period of time passes, whether it's months, whether it's a year or more, as we get to know one another a lot more intimately, I ask the question again, you know, how can you hate me? And then the answer has changed. Daryl, I really can't hate you. I don't know why I did. And that's when they're done.
Are you afraid when you go into those situations? I look at your face when you ask them the first question, and they don't respond the way you may want them to, and by then I'd be gone.
No, you know, I mean, I don't come with any expectations. It's not how I want them to respond. I want them to respond as honestly as they can, whether it's, well, you know, something that I like or something that I don't like. I want them to be honest with me. But no, I'm not fearful of them. I've had, I mean, as you saw in the movie, it does not make me a better person, but it makes me a little bit broader. Not, I mean this way, but you know, growing up with parents in the U.S. Foreign Service, I did a lot of traveling as a young child. Today, as a professional musician, I play all over the world. When you compare, I mean, when you combine my travels as a kid with my travels as an adult, to date, I've been in a total of 56 different countries around the world. And I've been on 6 continents. So I've literally been exposed to a multitude of religions, ethnicities, cultures, traditions, etc. And all of that has helped shape who I've become, you know, as an adult. Now, I will say this, perhaps had I not had that experience as a kid, would I be doing this today? Probably not.
I do wonder if that had, because you had a very different life, for sure.
Because I've seen so many different groups of people around the world, I just consider neo-Nazis and Klan and whoever else, different, whether it's black supremacists or white supremacists, I just consider them another group. One of my favorite quotes of all time is by Mark Twain, and it's called The Travel Quote by Mark Twain. And Mark Twain said, "Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime." That is so true. Now, and that has helped shape who I've become. Now, I realize that many of the people that I deal with, that I speak to, they may never have that travel experience that I've had. So then I rely on another quote, which was, "If you can't take Muhammad to the mountain, you bring the mountain to Muhammad." So perhaps the mountain is my experience, and I can bring it to them vicariously and let them see something that they might otherwise not see. And sometimes it works. I'm not so naive as to think that everybody I encounter is going to change. No, there will be those who will go to their grave being hateful, racist, and violent. There's no change in them whatsoever. But if somebody is willing to sit down and talk with you, regardless of how extreme they may be on the opposite side of your perspective, that's a step, you know? And what you do is you seek commonalities. If you spend 5 minutes with your worst enemy, you will find something in common. If you spend 10 minutes, you'll find even more. If you nurture those commonalities, you are then forging a relationship. If you nurture that relationship, you are then forging a friendship. All right? And as you forge that friendship, you find more and more commonalities. The things that you have in contrast, such as skin color, or whether you go to a mosque, a temple, a synagogue, or a church, begin to matter less and less.
So how long did it take before you and Scott became friends?
It probably took just a matter of just 2 or 3 months.
Once we met, once we got connected, because he didn't like me at first. He's my brother today.
And that's true, I mean, when I first was introduced to Daryl, I saw him on, well, I never what he was doing. He was going around talking to Klansmen, and I was in the movement then. And
So was he a target?
he would have been, yes.
You all knew what he was doing, so.
Oh, yes, and I said a lot of awful things about Daryl. But I was in a different mindset at that time, and of course, as I transitioned out, started transitioning out of the movement and stuff, you know, I saw Daryl again on the Discovery Channel. When I saw him on the Discovery Channel, everything he said made sense to me. And I reached out to Daryl, and then he reached back, responded. We swapped phone numbers and became brothers. So, and that's it. Of course, I came from Indianola, Mississippi, home of B.B. King, and it's just like you said, you have a commonality with each other. You find something you have in common, and we did. B.B. King played music, Delta blues, and Daryl was a musician. That was another thing that we had in common, and it just kind of grew from that point.
And as Scott just said, you know, he was in a certain mindset. He hated me at the time for what I was doing. And then when he saw me again, I was still saying the same thing. My message didn't change, but now he had a different perspective. So how can you hate me if you don't even know me? Well, in the beginning, because I'm inferior, and then later on, I'm equal. You can't hate me.
Can you hate him because that's what you've been taught? As a young person?
I believe hate is taught. Whether it was not taught to me because neither one of my parents were racist. My mother wasn't racist. My dad wasn't racist. Matter of fact, I was disowned by several members of my family for believing the things that I believed and was preaching. I used the term reform racist. Why? That's exactly what I was, a racist. I mean, did I believe all the crap that was taught to me? Maybe not, but I still practiced it and preached it and said the god-awful stuff that I shouldn't have said. So I'm just as guilty as anyone, and I take full responsibility for everything I've said and done. And I thank God that those days are past.
You said you felt accepted. always wondered why people take a path. And so you said that you felt accepted, that they did something for you that wasn't being done. And
Yes,
felt
ma'am.
that's where you should be.
Yes, ma'am. Of course, like I said, I was born in Indianola, Mississippi. I lived in a very dysfunctional family. My dad was a very violent alcoholic, and a lot of the things that I witnessed probably as a young child would instill PTSD in the average person, and maybe, in my mind, in my mindset at that time, the maturity of my brain, what I saw would instill PTSD in a soldier. And I was looking for a place to fit in. I was looking for a home, a family, and I found it right in my backyard with the Ku Klux Klan.
So Daryl, what response do you get from both? From then till now, you're still doing this. So
Right.
what response are you getting?
From who?
Both.
Both.
White,
Oh, whites and blacks,
Klan,
okay, yeah.
non-Klan?
Well, black people who know me, they already know that I'm crazy, so they accept me. But those who don't, it's all across the board, as you saw in the film there. I met with some members of the Black Lives Matter chapter in Baltimore. Now, let me explain something to you so you understand something that a lot of people don't realize. Black Lives Matter is a great idea for the movement. It was formed to put the national spotlight on the plight of black men who, for lack of a better word, were murdered by white police officers for holding a cell phone or a wallet or whatever, whereby white men in the same situation either got to go home or go to jail. We got to go to our graves. And so the national spotlight hopefully would cause enough people to see that and be enraged and change it. Sort of like Dr. King wanted to put the national spotlight on the Montgomery buses in Montgomery, Alabama. And so that's why he had the boycott, and the national spotlight was put on it, and that's when things changed. So the idea was good, but the situation was this: they did not trademark that organization. They didn't want to, so they're not centralized. So therefore you have 80, 90 different groups of Black Lives Matter all over the country. And they're all autonomous. There's no one chief. And so different ones are on different pages. There's a group in Detroit, there's a group in New York, both who contact me and say, hey, do you give workshops? Can you teach us how to do what you do? And then there's ones who tear me apart, like you saw there. Now what you saw in that movie was only 8 minutes. 8 minutes. That went on for about an hour. And it almost got physical. That's why you saw me remain in my chair. Because I knew if I got up, it would all be over. Okay? So I just remained calm in my chair. But that's how it went. Believe it or not, when Miss Morris here was talking about the festivals that the movie first premiered in, it did South by Southwest, Memphis, different places. There was one place festival that refused to show the movie because they thought that scene was staged. It was not staged, folks. That was real. Now, understand something. You saw the movie just now. When I first met the young man in the parking lot, Kwame, the first thing he said was, I understand you're the first black member of the KKK. Well, where does that come from? He had bad information about me. If there were black members of the KKK, there wouldn't be a KKK, okay? Then when it got to the bar with his buddies, it became almost like gang-like mentality on me. And he said a couple times at least, in that scene, but throughout the hour, that a white supremacist cannot change. And I would dispute that. And they got very angry with me. I understand that. And I don't begrudge them for getting upset. But here's the thing. If I saw a picture of a black man shaking hands with a robed and hooded Klansman, I'd have a visceral reaction. But me, I would turn the page and read the backstory to find out why this picture was happening. And then I said, oh, okay, I get it now. That's cool, I got it. But some people have that visceral reaction and never go any further. They jump to a conclusion without finding out why I'm doing this. And that is exactly what happened. Because about a year and a half later, they reached out to me and said, hey, we'd like to get together and talk, have dinner and talk. I said, okay, that's fine. So, you know, the guy threatened me, telling me, you know, never come back to Baltimore again. Listen, I live 35 minutes from Baltimore. I'm in Baltimore every other day, okay? But I went up there, we had dinner, and we talked. And we had a good time. And now they have more appreciation for what I do. They don't agree with everything that I do, which is understandable, okay? But now they understand more of what I do. They are more into the systemic racism. I am more into the individuals, right? But we all have to work together. And the analogy that I gave them when we had dinner was this. There's no one way to solve racism, all right? For example, if a husband and wife are having a domestic dispute and pots and pans are flying or whatever, you call the police. Usually it's 2 police officers who show up in uniform, they knock on the door, they go in, one takes the wife to the kitchen, other one takes the husband to this room, and they get the stories and they compare them, and then they tell them, hey look, you know, you all better be cool, if you're not cool, click, click, and off you go. You know, and don't make us come back, because we come back, you both are going to jail for disturbing the peace. And off they go. But we see a lot of that. Also, we see almost every other day, some husband has come home deranged because he lost his job or whatever, and he's holding his wife hostage at gunpoint, holding his kids hostage. He's going to shoot them and then probably shoot himself. We see those stories all the time. So then the police come. But it's not just those 2 officers who came initially. They come and they stand way back with that bullhorn and try to talk the guy into putting down his gun and letting the kids go and all that kind of stuff. But also another division of the police come called the SWAT team. And they don't, they don't just come to your front door. They're at your front door, they're at your back door, they're at the side, on the windows, peeking in. They might even land on your roof from a helicopter. They got that house surrounded with sharpshooters, all right? So you got the 2 uniform officers, the SWAT team, and then there's another person from the police department. He's on the phone trying to talk you down, saying, hey look, everything's gonna be okay, we can get you some help. Just let one of your kids go. You know, that's the hostage negotiator. All of these people are coordinating for the same common goal, which is to make sure that those hostages come to no harm. If the hostage negotiator on the phone can talk you down, great. If the 2 guys outside of the uniform bullhorn talk you down, great. If the sharpshooter has a clear shot and can take you out without hurting the wife or the kids, you're gone. Okay? The main objective is to free those hostages, and they all have to coordinate. And that's how I explained it to these people, that we all have a role to play. You do what you do best, I do what I do best, let's coordinate. And they agreed. So here is a picture of us after dinner. This is the 3 friends picture that you have on your computer. That's a Klan rally about 20 years ago in Maryland. I think it's down at the bottom. Yeah. There you go. Big difference between what you saw in the movie and there, okay? That's us today. And that's a result, folks, of dialogue, of being willing to sit down and talk. Because we spend too much time in this country, I'm telling you right now, talking about each other, or talking at each other, or talking past each other. Why don't we spend just a few minutes talking with each other? And that's the result you get.
So I'm so glad you're showing that picture. Because when you went through the film, he's in hostile territory the whole time, right? He's standing there with someone with a Klan, you know what they represent. None of the exchange was hostile. I mean, it was very civilized, it was very calm, it was, you know, kind of amazing that that was happening. And then when you get to the only 3 black guys in the film, you know, you're going at each other. And it was very aggressive. So I'm glad that you have followed up on that story to say what happens when?
I thought it was important to have that scene in the movie because racism is not just a one-faceted thing. We all have to address it from all different angles, and we all experience it. And as you know, you saw in the movie, a Klansman will hate a white person more than a black person if that white person is associating with a black person, because it's like you are race trading. And it's the same thing with somebody who's black and sees you associated with a Klansman. You're a race trader, and that's more or less what I was being called, a pimp in a pulpit, or I'm sitting around with my Klan buddies and so forth and so on. But now they understand what I'm doing, and we agree to coordinate our efforts and work together.
So we're gonna let you ask a couple questions, if you have a couple questions. But before we go to that, I want you to tell me what happened in Charlottesville while he's getting the mic to you.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Before I tell you what's happening in Charlottesville, let me just show another clip real quick, if I may. Can you show that's in Maryland 20 years ago. Here's one, hold on. Here's one in Missouri about 3 years ago. At the end of a rally. No? Oh, let it play, that's fine. Pause it for 1 second though. Let me just set it up. Okay. What you're gonna see here is, when I met this guy, he was a Grand Dragon, which means state leader. He was state leader of Maryland. He moved on to become a national leader, an imperial wizard. And he's the one who told me I had a small brain and so forth and so on. Okay. This is a rally that he later invited me to. And I would go to many Klan rallies. And he, CNN got wind of this, of a black musician and this Klan leader getting together. And this clip was shown on CNN and on A.L.L every hour for 24 hours all over the world. So you're going to see it right now, but I want you to pay particular attention. The guy's name is Roger Kelly. Listen to what he says. He says, hold on, even though he and I would do different things together, it did not change his views on the Klan, because his views on the Klan had been cemented in his mind for years. And then he goes on to say how he believes in separation of the races, because he finds that to be in the best interest of all races. But then he says something very interesting towards the end about respect. Listen to what he says, and then listen to the commentary the two CNN news desk anchor people have to make.
Welcome to this final hour of CNN Sunday Morning. I'm Bob Kane, and today for Miles O'Brien.
Good morning to you all. I'm Joey Shen.
Friendship can transcend all kinds of boundaries.
Look at us. Two men in the Washington area are showing that even an African-American man and a member of the Ku Klux Klan can find common ground. CNN's Carl Rochelle for us.
Daryl Davis plays a hot piano. It's part of the show, and it makes him stand out. He also stands out here. Davis is one of the few African Americans you will ever find attending a KKK rally. More than attending, he is welcome.
I got more respect for that black man than I do you white niggers out there.
It's been a tough day for the Klan. Their Maryland rally found many local residents rejecting the message of white separatism. After it's over, Daryl Davis hangs around backstage with his friend, Klan wizard Roger Kelly. It's not unusual for blacks and whites to be friends, but it is unusual to find a black man and a Klan leader chatting pleasantly over an orange soda after a Klan rally. The relationship started over a book Davis was writing. His secretary set up an interview with Roger Kelly, but didn't tell him Davis was black. They talked and talked some more. Davis learning about the Klan, Kelly learning about Davis.
We get to know one another, we do different things, It hasn't changed my views about the Klan, because my views on the Klan's been pretty much cemented in my mind for years.
Kelly and his Klan friends go to hear Davis and his band. And Davis goes to their rallies.
I sat on the front row, and I listened to each Klansman speak. Some things I agreed with, other things I did not agree with.
Davis thinks that his presence promotes badly needed understanding.
hates them, I believe, from fear of the unknown. And I think this is all across the board, regardless of whether it's the Klansman or anything else.
But he has no illusions about the Klan. If he did, his friend would be quick to disabuse them.
And I believe in separation of the races. I believe that's in the best interest of all races.
Does he really? Or has friendship transcended the color barrier? Listen to Kelly at a Klan rally.
I'm a father. I've been in the hell now because I believe in what he stands for and he believes what I stand for. A lot of times we don't agree with everything, but at least he respects me to sit down and listen to me. And I respect him to sit down and listen to him.
The strange relationship of a KKK wizard and his black buddy. In Washington, I'm Carl Rochelle, CNN Sunday Morning.
Strange. Good adjective, strange.
Certainly not.
Okay, now, you heard Mr. Kelly say that even though he and I would do different things together, it did not change his views on the Klan, because his views on the Klan had been what? Cemented in his mind for years. And he goes on to say how he believes in separation of the races, because he finds that to be in the best interest of all races. But did you all hear him say that he respected me? Huh? What's up with that? I'm a black guy, he's the Imperial Wizard of the Klan. Okay? 2 years prior, my brain was small, I was on welfare, and I'm a criminal. And now he respects me. What he said was this. He said, we may not agree on everything, but at least he respects me to sit down and listen to me, and I respect him to sit down and listen to him. Those are his words. If you don't take anything else home with you tonight, take those words home and apply them in your daily lives on any topic where you have an adversary, something controversial. It doesn't have to be about racism. In fact, let's take racism off the table. There are enough hot topics out here. Abortion, global warming, the current presidency, the war in the Middle East, nuclear weapons, whatever. You're on one side, somebody else is on the other side. Give your opponent a platform. Allow them to air their views. If you agree, fine, no problem. If you don't agree, that's fine too, no problem. But you challenge them. You don't do it violently or rudely. You say, look, I need more clarification as to why you think I should believe the way you do. Give me more explanation. And when you do things that way, there is an excellent chance that they will reciprocate and give you a platform. It may not come that very same time or the next day or the next week, but it will come, all right? And you do your homework so that you can present your platform in an intelligent and influential manner. Because at the end of the day, you each must think about what the other person said. And if somebody makes a little more sense to you than what you have believed from day one, to however old you may be today, you begin to struggle with your ideology. So he and I will continue these conversations even after my book came out. And that cement that he talked about, that held his ideas together, began to get cracks in it. And it got so many cracks in it, it crumbled and fell apart. And then Roger Kelly quit the Ku Klux Klan because he no longer believed in what he said in that video about this ideology being cemented in his mind. It was the same thing that you saw with the guys who in Baltimore. They had that cement in their mind. But over time, these things can change. People can change. When Roger Kelly left the Ku Klux Klan, he gave me his robe and hood. This is the robe of the Imperial Wizard, the same one that you saw him wearing in that video. Okay, and of course, this is what's called the hood. They also call it a helmet. Hood and helmet are synonymous. This is the hood or helmet. This is the mask. Members who want anonymity, they wear this mask and they peep at you through these eyelets. They see you, you don't see them. If they don't care that their identity is revealed, the mask is attached by 3 snaps or Velcro. They just detach the mask and the face is exposed under the hood. And you saw both types in that, in that video clip. And I have a ton of these things now at home. I keep them locked up off-site from my house, but I have a ton of these things now. And people can change. Understand, I am not a racist. I'm not a supremacist. I'm not a separatist. I did not respect what Roger Kelly had to say. I did not respect what he had to say, but I respected his right to say it. We may not agree on everything, but at least he respects me to sit down and listen to me, and I respect him to sit down and listen to him. Those are his words, and that's how this results. Okay? The two CNN anchor people implied that I was strange. But I'm gonna tell you what, if being strange causes people to give up stuff like this, we all need to be strange. Now, Charlottesville. You all saw the mayhem on August 12th in Charlottesville. Let me bring it to life for you right here, right now. I'm very, very passionate about this. As you can see, my voice is shaking because let me just start. If you'll show that the flamethrower clip, the image, not the video. No, I'll kill that. The one right before that one. Okay, yeah, if you can make it full screen. Okay, what's going on there? You see those guys coming down the steps? They're coming down the steps from the Confederate Park in Charlottesville. Those are Klansmen. You don't know that because you don't see their robes and hoods. I know that because I know them all personally. The guy, the black gentleman with the flamethrower, he had a can of aerosol and a match, and he lit it and made an improvised flamethrower. These guys are trying to hit him with their Confederate flagpoles. He's trying to burn them, etc. Now, that's what's happening there. I'm going to show you a video clip of that same scenario, and you're going to see the Imperial, you're going to see the Imperial Wizard come around the corner. He's wearing a bandana and a blue jean vest and black jeans. He comes around the corner. He sees his Klan members getting ready to get burned. He pulls out a gun, points it at the black guy's head, and shouts, "Hey, nigger," and then fires the gun into the ground near the flamethrower's feet. Just a few feet away are the Charlottesville police, standing there in green neon vests, doing absolutely nothing. Okay? Now, let's take a look at that video clip. There he is. There's the police over there in the background, the green neon. Okay, let me tell you something, folks. Let me tell you something. That's Charlottesville, Virginia, okay? It may not be Memphis, Tennessee. I'm gonna tell you something. It very well could be Memphis, Tennessee. That is your country. Charlottesville is as much a part of your country as Memphis is. And if you are an American, Charlottesville is an American city. It's yours. It's your city. Just like Memphis, Tennessee is. So when you see something like this happen, what are you going to do? What is your reaction? What do? You say, oh, well, Charlottesville's over there on the East Coast, I don't have to worry about that. No. Charlottesville's problems are your problems, because this is your country. Now, are you going to sit back and, well, we can blame the black guy for firing the flamethrower. We can blame the Klansmen for coming down the steps and swinging their Confederate flagpoles and trying to beat people. We can blame the Imperial Wizard for pulling out his gun and shooting it. Or we can blame the police for standing around doing nothing. Or perhaps maybe we need to blame ourselves for allowing our country to come to this point in the 21st century. So I'm going to ask you something. You don't have to answer me right now, but I want you to answer before you get home tonight. Think about it. What are you going to do? There's only two things you can do. One thing is you can sit back and let your country become whatever, or you can stand up and make your country what you want it to become. All right? The police chief got fired in Charlottesville. They have a new one there now because of that. I'm going to tell you what I did. I called that guy up who fired that gun. You saw him in his street clothes. All right, this is him in his Klan clothes, in his Imperial Wizard outfit. It'll be the next clip after the video. There he is. Okay? I called him up. He lives about an hour and a half from me. I said, hey man, we gotta talk. Not Klansman to black man, but man to man. Your Confederate history is as much a part of my history as my black history is a part of your history. It's all American history. Let's explore American history together. He said, okay. He invited me over to his house. I drove an hour and a half up to his house. I sat in his living room with him and his Klanslady fiance, Confederate flags and Klan stuff all over the place. I sat on this Confederate blanket on his couch, and I listened to him give me a narrative of American history for 2 hours from a Confederate perspective. When it was my turn, I said, I'll tell you what, here's what I want you to do. Let's set a date. I want you and the Klanslady, your fiance, to come down to my house in Silver Spring, Maryland, about an hour and a half. And I will secure tickets to the new Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. Let's tour it together. He said, okay. Because I had given him his platform and let him educate me from his perspective. Now it's my turn. This is what I want to do. So we set the date. I had a connection there. I got the tickets. They drove down to my house. They got in my car, and I drove them downtown to D.C. I live 15 minutes from Washington, D.C. I drove them down to the museum. We toured the museum for about 2.5 hours. Here is us entering the museum. Notice the head attire. We can show the next clip, the museum clip, entering the museum. Okay, there we are. So we looked at different exhibits. Next clip. We looked at exhibits on slavery, on integration, segregation, little short videos on blacks in medicine, blacks in the arts, blacks in music, blacks in science and sports, etc. The Imperial Wizard there, whoa, you're going too fast for me. The Imperial Wizard there is a big rock and roll fan, as am I. And his favorite is Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley is one of my favorites. But I also know there wouldn't be an Elvis Presley if it wasn't for my big boss man, Chuck Berry, who invented rock and roll. If it wasn't for Chuck Berry, you would not have Elvis Presley. You would not have the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Van Halen, Elton John. Anybody who plays rock music, all their DNA goes back to Chuck Berry, okay, and Little Richard. So he's a Chuck Berry fan. He likes Chuck's music. So one of Chuck's cherry red Cadillacs is there. I saw it at Chuck's house, but I took him there to see it. So here is us looking at Chuck's Cadillac. Now, after 2.5 hours of touring this museum, we left the museum and we posed for a picture for posterity of our visit there. Next clip, please. There we are. This, folks, does not happen overnight. It happens over time. It happens over dialogue. It happens over sharing. It happens over love. Okay? I don't agree with what he stood for, but I was willing to sit down and listen. And in exchange, he was willing to do the same with me. He still has a ways to go, understand? This does not change overnight, but now he's heading in the right direction. All right? This is over a course of almost a year. That is a far cry from, hey nigger, boom. All right? At least now he's going in the right direction. Now, sequel. By this time, we had become pretty good friends. He was going to marry that Klanslady, his fiance, a few weeks after our trip to the museum. So naturally, I was invited to the wedding. Okay? I'm the one there without the Robin Hood, right? So, the lady is from your state, Tennessee. She's a Klanslady from Tennessee. And her father was unable to come to Maryland to walk his daughter down the aisle. Rather than ask one of his trusted Klansmen to walk his bride down the aisle and give her away, guess who they asked? They asked me. I agreed to walk her down the aisle. Next clip. There we are. And you see up in his bedroom window his Confederate flag, okay? And then right after they got married, the next clip. There we are, the groom, the bride, and the surrogate father. Okay? This, folks, I'm telling you, people can change if you're willing to put in the time and the effort. Scott Shepherd is a prime example of this. You want to address that?
You said it all.
Amen to that. We're going to thank Daryl Davis and Scott Shepherd. It's been a full night. Hopefully, I don't know how you were when you came in here, but I think something might have clicked by the end of the night. It's very interesting. What is that?
Scott and the people that have been rejuvenated and changed go to the Crips and the Bloods. Take them to the table and discuss.
And I will address that.
Make it beyond the personal, that you are in their weddings and you are accepted in their families. We still have a major problem of angry black men raised by single mothers making enormous mistakes. Guns are dropped in the community. They're killing each other. So where does your connection personally with the Klan, how is that going to affect the communities that are dying?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because really, I mean, of course, mine was the Ku Klux Klan. My problem was at home with the dysfunctional family. It's no different than what's going on in these big cities, and not big cities, also small towns now. And I talked to some of these gang members. It's a common denominator. That common denominator was the same things that I went through. So yes, you're totally right. And that's got to be addressed also. And I'm happy to do it. I mean,
Scott Shepherd talks the talk and he also walks the walk. And, you know, there are many things each and every one of us can do, okay? What did I say my degree was in? Music, okay? I did not major in sociology or psychology, all right? I majored in music because I love music. I'm just a rock and roll piano player. But if I can sit down and talk to people and achieve things like this, anybody in here can do it, all right? Take the time to learn your opposition's point of view. Learn as much as you can about it. Right? And that way, even though they may not like you, they will respect you for knowing how they think and how they feel. Right? But I'm not advocating that you all run out of here and go to a Klan rally or go to a Blood and Crips, gang event or whatever. Okay? Some people don't have that whatever it takes to do that. But if you want to do that, there are ways you can do it. If you don't want to do that, you still can help. And how do you help? You come to this National Civil Rights Museum right here. You contribute to it. You come here and be educated about how we can serve the community. The community is built of people from all walks of life, all educational backgrounds, all colors, all ethnicities, all economic statuses. Come here, learn as much as you can about the history of our country, and be a part of it, okay? Don't just sit back and talk about somebody. Don't talk at them, and don't talk beyond them. Talk with them. You can't do that, come here and learn how.
National Civil Rights Museum is an educational place. I mean, I came from Indianola, Mississippi when I was younger to Memphis, and probably, spent most of my life around Memphis and never set foot in this place. Never did. At the time, I had a wife. But we were, yeah, right, I know. One of a few. But anyway, we did, we passed the National Civil Rights Museum. I think it was free day.
Still passing?
And we we didn't pass it. It came by, and I got out and came in. Right at closing time, I think it was, it wasn't long before they were closing. I didn't get to see everything. but it struck an interest in me. It struck an interest. I came back the very next week and the very next week, and it planted that seed in me that I needed to open up and take a cold hard look again at my problems, and it's been uphill ever since. Oh, I should say down, but it's been an easier walk. Right.
That's the effect you're looking for.
It's an educational place, and it opened my mind and heart.
Y'all ready to sing tonight? Thank Faith Morris right here. Putting it together.
We're gonna let you all go home. I don't know if y'all want to leave, but I'm tired. We've been doing this since early this morning. But we look forward to this so much, and I'm glad we got a chance.